There's no such thing as time or space. So really, when we're talking about manifesting, it's really about holding the energy of what it is that you want to manifest, because we want to manifest things because it's going to make us feel a certain way. So if we could go through our day feeling that way, then we're already there in essence. And then the things that will come into alignment that resonate with that feeling.
Now let's talk about manifestation. The process of thinking of something or believing something hard enough that it materializes into reality. Now I'm sure to a lot of you this concept seems out there and probably kind of woo-woo. And you might not even think manifestation is real. But do you know who does? The CIA. In 2003, the CIA released a document from 1983 called Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process. This is a real document and can even be found on the CIA.gov website, and it's also in the description of this video. I'm not going to read it all here. It's 30 pages and we have to get to the episode. But the long and the short of it is that our entire universe is a hologram. And all kinds of things most people think are impossible are in fact within our abilities. Some of these things include out-of-body travel, remote viewing, meditation, and even time travel. But for the purpose of our little documentary here, we're going to focus on page 22, patterning, which once you dig deeper, you realize is the process of manifestation. Here's how we're introduced to patterning. This technique involves use of the consciousness to achieve desired objectives in the physical, emotional, and intellectual sphere. It does elaborate more after that, but here's the meat and taters. Once the thought-generated hologram of the sought-after objective is established in the universe, it becomes an aspect of reality which interacts with the universal hologram to bring about the desired objective, which might not, under other circumstances, ever occur. Y'all, if that ain't an if you build it and they will come statement if I've ever heard one, good Lord. Now let's go deeper. It states, in other words, the technique of patterning recognizes the fact that since consciousness is the source of all reality, our thoughts have the power to influence the development of reality in time-space as it applies to us, if those thoughts can be projected with adequate intensity. Basically, if you think hard enough, you can make it happen. Here's where it gets wild AF. Here's a warning from the document itself. However, the more complicated the objective sought, and the more radically it departs from our current reality, the more time the universal hologram will need to reorient our reality sphere to accommodate our desires. It's basically saying that the more complicated your manifestation, the longer it'll take. And it ends with basically saying it could mess your reality up pretty bad if you try to force something hard enough that's just too far gone. But it can be done. You just need to be patient. And this is basically says, be careful what you wish for. Y'all, I already knew there was something to this manifestation thing. But when I read this, I got a little freaked out. Because this says in so many words that what I already had figured out. My question now is, why don't we teach this in school? Why isn't it a college major? I encourage everyone to research this process and just manifesting in general, because it's a whole rabbit hole. Now let me introduce today's guest, Miss Brandaleen Johnson, psychic medium, life coach, and is well-versed in manifesting, and just an amazing podcast guest. We had a lot of fun. This is, of course, the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast, and I'm your host, Bobby Dizzle. I encourage everyone to subscribe and follow this podcast. All ways to watch and listen and subscribe are in the description. And of course, at bobbydizzle.com. We are here with Brandaleen Johnson, spiritual awakened expert and psychic medium. We may talk a little bit more about the psychic medium thing as we go, but this is going to deviate more from the usual topic of cryptids and ghosts and aliens. This is more of a selfish thing for me. Is I've been dealing with law of attraction and angel numbers lately. I say lately, actually, it's actually been about 10 years this year that I've started noticing angel numbers, and now it's getting to where I can kind of read them, and follow them around. So I wanted to get you on here and talk about what you knew about this kind of thing, if you did. I know we discussed a little bit off camera.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you and your audience about all this woo-woo stuff.
Love the woo.
Yeah, woo-woo. So you started seeing the angel numbers, and now it's getting.
I wouldn't say it's not out of hand, and it hadn't been more. I'm starting to be able to like utilize them, and like this means that means that, and I can like guide myself around, like even like not predict the future, but like feel confident that nothing bad is going to happen in a certain situation because of them.
Right.
And
So do you
it's
think your
pretty neat.
audience knows what angel numbers are?
Let's pretend they don't.
Okay. Then they don't. So angel numbers, it's kind of happens when synchronicities start happening at the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of your spiritual awakening. And you just start noticing repetitive numbers so much so that you start questioning, like, why do I keep seeing this number? And then you Google something and you might find a video of mine or you find different
Mm-hmm.
art. But it's really interesting because once you come online to the fact that they're actually communicating with you, then it gets really strong. And like you said, you starting to know what these numbers mean, and they could
Mm-hmm.
mean different things for different people. Like I
Mm-hmm.
tell people when they come to me, why am I seeing this number, to actually look it up. And I love the website Joanna Sacred Scribes. That's the one that I
Mm-hmm.
resonate with the most.
I was going
um,
to ask if you use Joanne Sunscribes, whatever her name is.
yeah, I think
Joanne.
it's
That's my favorite one.
oh, okay, that's mine too. So I'll tell them to go there, but there are other numbers that can mean something to you. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, when I keep seeing 222, I know that that's them telling me, "Yep, you're on track. This is part of your life purpose. Keep doing that." But when I see 438, I know that that is straight up my mother um,
Mm-hmm.
communicating with me. The other day, if I could share a little story with you, it was like 3 days
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
I opened my phone to see how many reel views I got right on my reels because I'm always on social media, and I had 438 reel views. So I thought, oh, hi,
Mm-hmm.
mom. That's cool. An hour later, I got a message from my daughter saying, I found this little pig in the weirdest place. And my mom loved pigs. I mean, she loved them. She had a whole room dedicated to them, and people would buy her all these pig knickknacks. So she's like, I feel like Nanny's saying hello. So I said, well, that's funny because I saw 438 today. So I know she's definitely saying hi. So then I log into this class that I'm taking online. And the next video that I was watching was 4 minutes and 38 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
So then I decided that I need a notebook. I need a notebook to take notes. And I had misplaced the notebook that I was using before, and I have a stack of notebooks. So I picked up this notebook and I opened it to this random page. And I'm like, that's not my handwriting. And I look and I shit you not, it's my mom's handwriting, and it says a letter to my daughter. And it was like all these little quotes that she
Mm-hmm.
had wanted to pass on to me. And I was just bawling, of course, at that point. But it gets to the point where if you know that they're communicating with you, um, it's a lot of times it's angels, right? Angels, not your past loved ones, but you can
Mm-hmm.
have a number that you resonate with a certain past loved one that when you see that over and over, you know that they're there. It's pretty crazy. And then
Mm-hmm.
follow along and take that guidance. So like if I was about to make an investment and I'm seeing 438, I'd be like, my mom approves. Like mom approves of this
Mm-hmm.
investment.
One of mine is 602. And so that was my grandmother's phone number growing up. And I've seen it before good things happen. It's kind of one thing, and it's a variation of my favorite angel number. So it's I kind of because it was her phone number, and my other grandparents was 5762, which is my favorite angel number 62. I've never revealed that on air before. I hope it doesn't ruin it. I don't know what telling your birthday wish does, but yeah. And sometimes it happens so much. Like what am I supposed to do with this crap? Basically, like okay, I understand it. I mean, we're 10 years in, we know that. What what do you do when you see it? I'm just like okay, well that's good. Thanks. I'm moving on, and hopefully it means what it says in the internet.
Yeah.
Hopefully that stands because I'm going with that because I have nothing else.
Yeah. No, I love it. And like I was saying, once they know that you know, they're going to start
Mm-hmm.
using those numbers to communicate with you. And it
Mm-hmm.
does get a little bit crazy. People send me pictures of somebody was sending me pictures of the number 4, and he sees it in the clouds and in the sun and all these weird play in nature. He sees the 4, and he's like, it's driving him crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it drives people crazy, but generally speaking, it's just them letting you know that they're
Yeah.
supporting you, that you're on the right path, that it might have something to do. Like, say, for example, if I saw 438 and it didn't have something to do with my mom, I would just know that that's angels that are guiding you towards abundance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because those numbers, 4 is angels, 8 is abundance, I believe, 2 is life purpose. And then you create like little cocktails of them. So you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I'm being guided right now.
All but one of mine have a 2 in them. all but one of them. Like I only used one forever. And it was always 62, and that was kind of when I saw that I knew okay, it's going to be cool because that's there. It's on a receipt number. When we were having my third daughter, we had to go schedule a C-section, and I'm freaking out. It's 3 a.m. I look up in the ceiling. There's a marker on one of the tiles that just said 62 in our delivery room. I'm like, that makes no sense. It's like somebody wrote it there. I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. Like, I calmed down. Like, this is good. And it was fun. It was during COVID, so it was all like everything was so ramped up, and that happened. I'm like, okay, well, it's like someone ran out there and just drew it really quick with a carpenter pencil.
Well, and this is the thing too. It's so profound. Mm-hmm. How did you end up in that room? When did that number get on there? Mm-hmm. How did they decide to put?
Why was it written in pencil?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was in pencil. I mean, it was not a marker. I said pencil. Yeah, but why? Like, what are the circumstances? What had to lead to it?
Right. That goes along with like this, the signs from your past loved ones too. They're so profound, and you cannot make these things up. How do they manipulate music on your behalf? Like I went somewhere, because my husband passed away like 2.5 years ago, and they took our rings to get cleaned at a jewelry shop. And I thought they were going to have me drop it off and then come back a week later, pick them up. Cause I wanted to make like a little memory box and put our rings in there. And the girl goes, "Oh no, we're just going to clean them right here. What song comes on while I'm there?" Oh my God. The song, It was a song all about him dying. And somebody had sent me that song, the morning that he died. And I was like, oh my God. And so now I'll go like to the bar and have lunch, and that song comes on. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like following me around. How do they manipulate the music? It's so mm-hmm. profound. And that's why I love what I do, to, teach people to come into this awareness that we're not alone by any means. And we're always being guided. And it's like, you just think of the unlimited possibilities of being in different dimensions and all that. It's like blows your mind. Like, how do they mm-hmm. manipulate it?
The music thing is I've noticed over the years as well. I have a song that it kind of means I'm about to get another job or come into some kind of fortune. And the other day I was coming down, I was kind of having a mini freak out over certain things I was trying to make happen or, will to happen. And I saw the local, right before I turned onto my exit ramp, the car stopped in front of me and like swerved. It not like to hit me, but it's kind of cut me off, but still going speed. And his license plate was the local radio station. I turned it over there right then. I'm like, okay, it's too much, too coincident. I turned it over, and that was the song I always hear. It just started. Dude, it happened. I said, you know what I said? When it happened, I said, fuck you. I was by myself. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, I just kind of started smiling. I was like, whatever. This is, because I was like wondering, like, can we just speed this up a little? And that came on. I was like, I just said that out loud audibly. I was the only one in the truck. So fuck you. I don't even know who I was talking to. I didn't mean it meanly, but just thinking like, come on, you're so smart aleck almost sometimes.
Yeah, I know they do whatever they have to do to get your attention, honestly. And that's why the number 1111 is usually what people see. Mm-hmm. And they see it so much that they'll reach out to me and be like, okay, why am I seeing 1111? And that's usually what we call the gateway. It's the gateway. Yeah.
It's the first one everybody starts noticing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on the repeating ones. But right before that radio station had, and I was having my little, talk to them and everything, I just saw a sign that said 111, and 30 seconds later that happened. And I knew the 111 meant that it's like an attention getter, universal attention mm-hmm. getter, like SOS to the angel spirit guides. And I just saw that sign, so I'm like, okay, I thought they were like bringing me back down. And then all of a sudden that happened. I'm like, okay, it was a sign. So now when I think back, and it starts to happen again, I remember that the radio station sign. So yeah,
I like that.
Crazy.
I like that you shared that, because they'll do that with people's psychic mm-hmm. abilities too. They'll usually be one where they get your attention. So you're like, hey, oh shoot, they're trying to get my attention. One Claire, like either you'll get a vision, and that means you need to start paying attention. And then they'll use a different Claire to give you the information. But like for me, it'll be like, I'll get a feeling, a physical clairsentience, physical psychic feeling in my stomach. And that means they're trying to get my attention. And then I'll use to get the information through
it's like a phone ringing.
So they're like, Hey, here's your attention. And the fact that it happened like seconds after you were talking to them.
Yeah, I mean, it was the whole drive. It was like a 40-minute drive. And the whole time I was just talking like, can we just get something going? I was so frustrated about something. And then right when I got almost home, that happened. And sure enough, yeah, almost like 3 in 1, like three very like non-mistakable things. Like that song, when I turned to it on FM radio, which I never use, with that song playing, that song's a big deal. It's happened multiple times, like within days of something big happening.
I love it.
So when I say within days, the only times it's happened, besides that time, the miracle or whatever I was going after happened that day or the next day. And so that kind of freaked me out, which meant in relative time what I got going on, that's coming very soon. It wasn't the next day. I knew it couldn't have been, but like I'm talking year or so, maybe inside of a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's a time marker there. They don't ever put anything that close. They don't go that detailed that far away. So I was trying to say.
Right, because everything changes, just like you were saying before we recorded that. Within a few months, you have shifted so much. You know what I mean? Yeah, and so and that's the thing with the law of attraction too, because I know you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Yeah. It's like we get to a certain point, and then we might be like, well, actually, I don't necessarily want to keep going this way. I want to like shift. So we call that pivoting, right? That's why they don't tell you this whole thing, because all these little pivots are like your little dimensions that you can shift through for yourself, right? Because we're multi-dimensional beings. But once you get to this certain point, your awareness is like, you know what? I don't really like to do whatever it was that I created. I'm going to pivot and I'm going to shift. So then all the universe has to like shift its little alignment.
Yeah. The quantum shift thing I've heard about. I'll sit on TikTok and scroll at night when it's nothing's, I mean, the phone will be like at my waist and I'll just go and stroll through the different ones about it just to hear it. And I think I've heard every one of them on TikTok so far, like every one of them's reruns. But yeah, what you're saying is like you can't give them a timeline. That's what I've learned. They'll always bypass the timeline by like 30 seconds just to be like, I told you couldn't do that.
Well, so with quantum physics, right? And the way our human brain works, our human brain thinks about time like the piece of paper, and each line is like you're running down a football field, right? So you think you have to get to the 50-yard line before you get closer to the goal. So your human brain thinks that way. But in reality, if you just look down at the football field, all of it exists, right?
Yep,
and then
it's all there.
If you fold like this piece of paper, you could just punch through the timeline and get from the beginning to the end. That's like the quantum physics theory is taking time out of the equation. And if you think of it, there's no such thing as time or space. So really, when we're talking about manifesting, it's really about holding the energy of what it is that you want to manifest, because we want to manifest things because it's going to make us feel a certain way. So if we could go through our day feeling that way, then we're already there in essence. And then the things that will come into alignment that resonate with that feeling.
It's hard. It's almost like a practice you have to do.
Oh, it's definitely a practice.
Once you get used to it, though, once you fall into that feeling, you can't come out of it.
Spending more time in that feeling. If there's somebody listening that's struggling too, it's like,
yeah,
it's human people want to tell the truth, right? So if you have $0 in your bank account, you're like, well, I literally have $0 in my bank account. How can I be feeling rich? The best thing that you could do is not feel poor. Is not to feel that. So whatever it is that you have to do to be nowhere, no win and no one, and I call that meditation, to get out of the frequency that you're in, by just doing nothing. And that's a practice that I did because I used to struggle big time with money mindset and have fear. I would have gripping fear to check the mail or check my bank account. So I spent a lot of quote unquote time in meditation so that at least I wasn't sitting there with that feeling in your stomach, and the pit of your stomach, which is what you're manifesting.
What is it called when you do the little scene in your head? I cannot.
Visualizing?
The visualizing, and you do affirmations. Visualization and affirmation. That's what I was saying. I was trying to repeat it over and over. Like, I am this, I am this, That's
Yes.
one way to get in that. That's one way to get in that mindset, because you talk yourself into it. You can't get out of it.
You could talk yourself into it. The more that you can hold the feeling, I
Mhm.
feel like that's pretty powerful, because a lot of times you think you're lying to yourself if it's really no external evidence. Because you could say I am rich, but your subconscious mind is like, yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit. But if you could feel like, oh my gosh, how would it feel if I was on that cruise? Or how would it feel if I got this new car in your stomach? And then invite your subconscious mind in. The more of the senses that you use when you're doing the visualization, the more real that visualization experience becomes. And your brain, your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what's real and what's made up.
Mhm.
So if you did a visualization, say for example, you wanted a convertible car, right? And you want it to be red. So you're like looking at the color, and then you're imagining sitting in the car. How does it feel while I'm sitting there? And it's convertible. So like the wind is blowing through my hair. Where do I live? Make it more realistic, right? It's hot wind because you're living in Vegas, maybe, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or and then what song is on the radio while you're driving your car? And the more senses that you can use, and then writing it down, that whole visualization down,
Mhm.
the more that your subconscious mind thinks that this is a real experience, and it will go out to find things that's going to help that get in alignment. So you'll have more opportunities coming your way. You'll start seeing that red car everywhere. I know your audience will love this story. I once manifested $1 million home with no money. My grandma was starting to get pretty bad dementia. And so we were looking for a house that we could like live in and help take care of her, right? My husband and I at the time, and my daughter, because she was still young and lived with us. And so we went with a realtor, and we saw a couple of these really big houses, and it had like the mother-in-law's quarters on one side. So I was like, oh my gosh, but it was like $1 million. We didn't have $1 million. And I was like, what if because then I was like, well, what if my mom sold her house? We sold our house, and we sold grandma's house, then we could all live in there. But even though the market was pretty high, even with all three of those sales, we couldn't have made it. And so it kind of fizzled out. Oh, and then that house sold. That's why we stopped looking at that house. It sold for 900 and some. I took a picture of that house and I put it on the side of my refrigerator. And I wrote down, this house belongs to, and I wrote every single one of our names on there. And that was on my refrigerator for 3 years. And one day my mom drove past and she was like, the bushes are all dead in the front. And this is when the big housing crash happened.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's in foreclosure. And it was. So meanwhile, I had already bought a different house. And my grandma had gotten much worse with her dementia. So my mom had ended up taking over her estate. And so she decided she was going to try to buy this house. Well, because the market had crashed and because there's no custom homes in that area, the bank couldn't even sell it for what they wanted to because there was no comparables in the area. And my mom ended up getting it for like $470,000. And a few months later, my grandma fell and broke her hip, and we were forced to go move in there. So I ended up living there for like 3 or 4 years. And my husband and I lived on the mother-in-law's quarters. It was amazing. It was a beautiful home.
That's crazy. You like forced yourself in there. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you hear about when you look at how people do those kind of things.
Yeah. And so while the money did come from my family, it did not come one penny from me. So you can manifest. And Abraham Hicks talks a lot about that. It's like, don't judge what comes to you or how it comes to you. You manifested that, whether it was your money or what. Like, be freaking grateful. Is a great, great exercise for people to do, is start with something really small. We did that in like I have a group on Facebook, Your Spiritual Awakening Community. And we did this once. And one lady, she had a little frog and he ran away, he got out of his tank or something. So she's like, well, I want to manifest my frog, or finding my frog, right? And ended up, this little boy, one of her neighbor kids, came over, and I don't even think he knew the frog was missing, but he drew her a picture of a frog, and she was like, I manifested a freaking frog. It was a picture, and it wasn't her frog. She never did find her frog. He probably died, but something like that. Even if you got it on a picture.
Yeah, you're calling out for a frog, and here it came.
Mm-hmm.
You usually get exactly what you want, or something like equal or lesser value, like this random amalgamation. of it. And yeah, it's whenever what you think you're going to get falls through, but you know you have that feeling and it's already happened, and you're like, why did that fall through? And it's exactly what I wanted. And I start always wondering, man, I wonder what's next. I wonder if I'm actually getting, because that's going to be crazy. Like you
Yeah.
think you're going to get like a car, and all of a sudden you get like 3 cars, and you pass
Mhm.
them out. They're all new, and then a week later, the car you thought you were going to get erupts into flames on the interstate.
Yes. Yes. I went with my best friend the other day. She wanted to look at this truck and we got there and I had just sold it. She was throwing a fit. And I was like,
Mm,
girl, you have to trust. That truck was not for you.
it happened for
You
a reason.
might not ever find out what happened to that truck, but it was not for you.
You know, when it falls through like that, I get really excited. Like after the pit of the stomach, like you're sad about it, and then you realize, wait, something's about to come crazy crashing down.
Yeah.
That
And I feel
one
like
more thing is gonna open.
you're in a really good mindset about
Mhm,
that. And because you do that, that's when you see the next sign. Where if
mhm.
somebody's going to be dwelling on losing it, they're not going to see the sign for what's coming.
Yeah, I learned that a few years ago. I'm thinking, well, that fell through, like sure thing, fall through, and you're just like, man, that was supposed. I thought that was it, and then all of a sudden you're like left high and dry, like you're in that weird, like I got nothing. That's when you know it's about to get really crazy.
Yeah.
They're about to pull the rabbit out of the hat with like some crazy prize. You ever seen the thing where it shows God taking a little toy away from a kid and he's got a big toy behind his back? It's the same
Uh-uh.
thing. Yeah, like he's taking a little teddy bear, out of a little girl's hand, and behind his back is like a giant teddy bear. And the little girl's crying over the little teddy bear, and here comes the big one. That's what I always think of whenever that happens. I picture that little analogy. I had a really good example about 2019, and I had a terrible job that I hated, really toxic. The leadership was toxic top to bottom. I took it for experience, and now I'm glad I did because I ate my shit sandwich. Now I'm enjoying the dessert, so to speak. But I was like asking for a job that was like the one I just left, and a job that was just like the first job I ever had out of college. That managerial style in the work environment. Lo and behold, every job I had 4 jobs lined up and interviews lined up, and they're all a sure thing. One even used my resume to write the job announcement, and it fell through. I'm like, well, I thought that was it. Then like 2 more fell through. They changed the requirements. So I'm left high and dry. 3 months go by. I get a call from the boss of my job I just left, if you remember. He's like, hey, stranger, you still looking? I'm like, yes, I don't care what it is. And he's like, we got a position open at the job I just left in the building from the first job out of college I had.
Wow.
That was like, I was like, oh,
That's
make a wish,
crazy.
that happened. I'm talking about specific. I asked for it, that weird specific. I didn't realize until about a year later what happened. And
Do
that's
you
when I really
know
started digging deep in it.
do you know what your human design is?
What's that?
Oh, a
What my
human
life number
design.
is.
No, a human design is a mixture between astrology and the I Chi and something else. And there's different designs. So I'm a manifesting generator, which is probably 70 or 80% of people are manifesting generators. But we all manifest differently. And so because you keep saying stuff about specificities and then they're coming true, like different um, human designs are really good at putting the specificities where I think mine is being more broad.
People tell me not to say things at work. Like, don't say things. Everything he says comes true.
What sign are
It's,
you?
life numbers a 9, zodiac signs Leo.
A Leo? Okay.
Yeah. Let me
Well, that's
see.
good that you've mastered it to be specific. That is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy sometimes. I never know. Like, it's not something I can do like on demand. But if it's something I really need, like if I put my energy behind it, it goes kind of crazy. Or if I'm really in fear or need something to happen, that's when it happens. And right about the time I let my foot off the gas, boom. You know how when you let go.
Yeah.
Or if it's something I don't care about and just kind of say it so matter of fact, and it comes like if something I don't care about, it's crazy. I'm like, well, that's never going to work. Like shut up. Let's say that shit.
Yeah. See, that's the thing too, is I call those floating thoughts.
Yeah.
So if you have a thought and you're just like, well, that would be pretty cool, but you don't ever put any like oomph to it, all of a sudden it'll happen. You'll look back and you'll be like, oh my God. There was one time that I was like, I'm going to make $200,000 this year or something. And in my brain, right, my logical mind was like thinking it's going to come from this one place. Well, at the end of the year, I was like, man, I just really didn't get that goal. And then I started looking around at other things and I was like, oh, I surpassed that number. It just didn't come specifically from my job.
I'm doing my human design thing right now.
You're doing it.
Oh yeah, hey, this is interactive. This podcast is for me.
Yeah, so you go just if you just Google it, and then you'll need your your name, your city of birth, and the time of birth.
It says I'm a manifesting generator, the multi-hyphenate. I don't know what that means.
And then depending, like you'll have different centers because you see the big old weird squares and stuff that are
yeah. It looks crazy.
So like my head on there is open. And so that's why I'm in the psychic industry. Right? That's why I'm so intuitive. I'm supposed to be getting information from, you're showing it. I'm supposed to be getting information from outside, being able to tap in. Or some people are like more spleen, and I'm not a pro, let me tell you that, or more of a spleen. And that those are people that they have this gut feeling when they know that something terrible is going to happen, and everybody else around them can pick up on that too. It's very, very interesting and very detailed, but you could learn a lot about yourself if you study it.
Can you see that? I can't tell what it means. Strategy, responding.
Yeah.
Easy breezy.
So your strategy is to get people to respond to you. So for you, if you're promoting yourself outside, you would say something like, I was thinking about doing a podcast with Brandaleen, and she talks about this, and then a whole bunch of people respond. Then you could take action based on that response. Some people, what was the other girl that I worked with? She was one of my business coaching clients. She had to wait for people to give her a clue or invite her. Her manifestation was to be invited. So anytime somebody would make a suggestion or invite her, she really had to pay attention because that was something that she was supposed to take action on.
It says my creative zone is the kitchen. That is so true. Because like my favorite thing to do is make breakfast.
Okay.
And get overly caffeinated and come up with stuff. I have to look into this. A vision for turning ideas into reality. Yeah, I can't remember who I talked to. Her name was Marcella. I think she's from out that way too. By out that way, I mean west of Texas. Hell, she may be from Florida. I don't know. It was hot. But she gave me a tarot reading. I was on a podcast. And it was nine of Pentacles, the Emperor card. I can't remember what the third middle one was. But I know Nine of Pentacles was a good one. Because that meant you were just on the cusp of something. I didn't know what a pentacle was until that day. It sounds like an animal.
Yeah, no, that's one of those star shapes.
Yeah, it's like a pentagram coin. If you look at them all, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Emperor, that's good. So you were on the cusp of enjoying. The Emperor is good. You're sitting there and enjoying your rewards. Yes.
I can't remember what the middle one. They were all kind of in the same vein. Like the Pentacles, like you're almost there, and the Emperor's like what you're saying, you're enjoying the fruits. I can't remember what the middle one was. I don't think it was the big a deal. Like it was like 2 out of 3 were extremely good. Now, which law of attraction guy do you subscribe to? Is it the Neville Goddard or someone else?
I like Dr. Joe Dispenza.
He's a good one.
Yeah, so he really talks way more about quantum physics and about the now moment. I also follow somebody on Instagram called Manifestation Babe. She's got a huge
yes, I follow her too.
Yeah.
Dispenza. Who's the loud old man? There's 2 loud old men. There's one that kind of looks like Joe Pesci. And he's always telling you he's always saying the F word. But
no, that's not Dr. Joe.
No, I know who he is. I'm looking at him now. So what do you mean you don't have money? Go out and sit in the car, that kind of thing. He's like, go touch the leather of the car you want, something like that. Yeah. Always saying things like that.
Yeah, it's true.
And Mel Robbins.
Okay. This one book really, really, really helped me grasp spirituality and quantum physics. It blended it for me, but it's about money, and it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. I don't
Really?
remember who wrote it, but it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And in the first few pages, it blew my mind about quantum physics, and I loved that. And then A Millionaire Mindset or something like that, Millionaire Mindset.
I got to sitting out there because I only listen to like 6 podcasts in the world, and so I was building a fire over Christmas in the backyard, and I was going to look something else up, and I found Mel Robbins, and she has one episode about it, and it's incredible. It's like an hour and a half long. And she's like, don't treat your desires like a joke, because your subconscious will see it as a joke too. Like say it as like a real goal. Even that's how crazy it is. She had one of her friends of a friend up on stage asking her why she dropped out of acting school. And she's like, well, I just couldn't do it. Like, quit joking on yourself. You can do it. And I think she went back to acting school, moved out to California again because of it.
You have to believe. That's a big thing. And so a big thing with manifestation too is really getting control over your nervous system. Because a lot of people, I saw a meme the other day that says, you're not broke, your nervous system's out of alignment. And it's true, because if we can't regulate that, then we get stuck in these pockets, I guess I want to say an energetic pocket, right? And we get swept away with the current of the masses that are around you, right? Like a collective wave. But if you could do a lot of like breath work and work to regulate your nervous system, you guys can just Google what that is. But that's included in like the cold showers and tapping and breath work and doing the somatic work keeps your nervous system regulated, and then your mind doesn't chase this feeling of lack, right? And another thing to note is that your thoughts follow your breath and your nervous system. So if your breath is shallow, you're going to have these fast, worried thoughts. That's a big thing, is people forget to freaking breathe. So
I do it on here sometimes that I'm recording. I don't know why.
So
I'm doing voice work, I can't breathe.
If you could do that, and also grounding, right? Grounding yourself. It's going to energetically create a way, like a shield around you, an energetic frequency, so you're not getting stuck in those waves of the collective fear that's around you. Because we could get swept away. It happens to the best of us.
The amount of people who are just ready to say that assume the worst is crazy. Like, you can't do that. I'll never be able to do that. It's easier said than done. Like, why do you like that? I've always been that way. I'm like, well, that's no fun. Even though I worry a lot more than most people do. And when I get down to brass tacks, I'm really very optimistic.
Here's the thing too, is that this trauma from our ancestors goes down, like, I want to say 13 generations at least. They did this study with these rats, or mice maybe, and they put them in this cage, and they made this cherry blossom smell go in there, and they invoked fear in these mice, right? They invoked fear while they're putting this cherry blossom smell. So then they kept doing that for 13 more generations. All they did was blow the cherry blossom, and it took them 13 generations before those mice weren't terrified of that smell.
Wow. So it's like baked into their DNA almost.
It's in the DNA.
In some psyche.
Yep. So sometimes some of our fears come up, don't even belong to us. I did have you ever heard of timeline work?
Timeline? I haven't, no.
Okay. So there's different coaches that like help you with your mindset and stuff, and they do timeline work. So they'll ask you, what is something that you're stuck on? And mine was lack. And, or I think it was worthiness or shame. That's what it was. It was shame. So then she'll ask different questions. When is the first time you felt this feeling? Was it in utero, before utero, or after utero? Right. And the shame that I had was while I was in utero, while I was in my mother's stomach. And then she guided me for a couple other things. And I was like, oh my goodness, I either overheard or felt my parents discussing how I was going to be a detriment to their life, they weren't going to be able to afford me. So I came into the world feeling bad for my existence because it cost them money. So who am I to have money later on in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trauma. But timeline work is pretty interesting. And then you could kind of clear it out. I'd be like, that's a bullshit story that doesn't exist.
I've heard of something like that before. I didn't realize what you're saying, like something didn't happen in your past because it's causing trauma, so you kind of just force it out, almost like you filter it away.
Yeah, you make a new story, or at least I think awareness is the biggest key. Where you're like, oh my gosh, this is where it stems from. So now I could forgive and move on from there.
I can see how something like that could be possible, because you can make plants not grow by thinking bad things around them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read to a baby. There's books for utero. And so who's say you didn't get those kind of negative connotations in when you were, just a fetus. Now I wonder what's wrong with me. Now, I didn't have a bad childhood. So I'm like wondering that, that's why I'm kind of like an underachiever as far as career goes. I mean, I'm not like broke or anything. I'm a network guy, but like I never wanted to excel in school. Like it was okay to just make good grades and get a job. And then as I got a little older, I'm like, well, I want to do something bigger. Like the older I get, the more grandiose my goals become. As a youngster, I was just okay with being just near the family. I don't want to do anything else but just stay here.
Where I'm at in the industry, I'm very much masculine in my teaching. I have one student one time asked me when we're on a group, support call, and she said, how come you're not spiritual? I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm literally teaching you. And she's like, but, and what it came down to, it's the way I deliver. I'm not going to say, I don't like to use the word intuition. I like to use the word psychic and mediumship. I feel like intuition is all fluffy and, I might just get a nudge here and a nudge there. Yeah, everybody's intuitive, but when I'm teaching, I'm like, we're going to go structure. You're going to do this, and this, and you're going to have these abilities. It's not going to be all woo-dee-dee-woo-woo and tape these crystals to yourself to get this ability. You know what I mean?
Do like this. Sage the area.
Yeah, and I mean, I do
the little
teach
bell
them,
thing. Bing.
Yeah, I do teach them to sage and do those things, but it's more do this, not I don't know what the word would be, fluffy or feminine.
Mm-hmm. Basically just kind of unnecessary actions that people do to simulate their lack of belief.
That's true.
I think, and that's this is here because this happens. I don't believe it, honestly, deep down, because you don't need any of that to do it. Well,
I even have one of my students right now. She went to massage therapy school. She became a Reiki practitioner. She's a hospice nurse, right? She did all these things because she wanted to have her abilities so badly. But she's like, why don't I have them? I'm like, because yes, it's great to be in somebody's energy field. Yes, Reiki will amplify your abilities once you develop them, right? Yes, being a massage therapist, you are doing the body work. Yes, sitting by somebody as they pass away, you are right there in that energy. But you haven't taken a class to learn how to access it and how to manage it and how to strengthen it and how to use it at will. You know what I mean? Instead of
hospice nurse is really extreme.
What's that?
That's really extreme just to be a hospice nurse, trying to be a psychic.
or
to have powers on.
It's actually, I have a few hospice nurses that I've worked with and come through my program because they're fascinated by death. They're fascinated by what happens when their patient dies and how can they deliver a message to their living loved ones. They're fascinated with death.
Man, hospice nurse TikTok is my jam.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is incredible. But you can't get one of them to come on a podcast to save your life.
Okay.
Forget about it. They will not come on, no matter how many you ask.
Really?
I don't know what it is. They won't respond.
I have a hospice. I'll send you a hospice nurse. Then she hears the voices.
Oh yes, I want it.
Yeah.
Give me. I manifested a hospice nurse just now. By the way, saw that. That's how I do it.
Yep. You got one. Yeah, she took my class and she could hear her hospice patients in spirit, and she's pretty good at mediumship.
I think I may be asking like the wrong vein of hospice nurse. I think I'm like in the wrong, like the serious hospice nurse that's doing it and respects their patients and doesn't want to talk about it. I mean, I know why I don't get many of them, but I would just like to have a couple, just to, just for the novelty of it, to hear the stories and what happens. And right before they die, they get peppy and they jump around like Uncle Joe from Willy Wonka or Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka. Like you couldn't move for a year straight, and all of a sudden you're doing backflips. Then 6 hours later, beep. I want to hear about that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times the people will know, before, or like for my grandma, because she was dementia, she would go out and back in. She would be like, she was going between the realms before she passed. You know what I mean? So she would just be, I was like, she ain't here today. She's in spirit, They
start seeing little children in the room. Like, who's the little girl over there?
Oh yeah. My grandma kept talking all about the ugly lady that sat in the chair by her. And so she tried to give her coffee one time. I was like, oh my God. So I would just be like, hi, ugly lady.
Hello, ugly lady.
And my grandma would go around the corner to go to her bedroom, and she'd go, no, I'm not going in there. The ugly lady's in there. I'm like, who's this ugly lady haunting you? But it could have been, I don't know.
It's probably like her great grandma or something she didn't recognize.
Probably all wrinkly.
It's usually relatives.
Yeah.
From what I hear. Yeah, the hospice nurse TikTok, like they'll have one person will have a video, but then the comments will just be this de facto subreddit of stories. And you'll spend all your time on one video's comments. You're like, man, I just want like a whole podcast of these. Like they'll talk about, seeing the Grim Reaper, seeing certain things come in bright lights, and they can't go in the rooms that'll get haunted in the hospital. And keep pulling the little nurses thing.
Yeah. My late husband, he did medical equipment there for a little bit. And here in Las Vegas. And he said, oh no, the nurses, they know. They'll talk about certain people that walk the hallways now, or there'll be a certain room that no matter what, like a nurse won't go in there by themselves because weird things happen. So they bring another nurse, or there's certain rooms that are just really haunted.
I did like a tour of a haunted hospital about a month ago. It's still lingering in my mind. I can't imagine like in the full rush of it being haunted while it was actually active, what that would be like. The feeling while it was happening. And it's scary enough at midnight, much less when everybody's in there. I guess it'd be different. I guess it'd be backwards, but still, if you knew the person that died in there that's causing the ghost, that's got to be crazy. Like, oh, it's Helen. She's back again, pulling the string. Speaking of that, you're also a psychic and medium.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask about that. I want to get my selfish thing out of the way. But what do you do as far as mediumship goes?
So I am a psychic medium, and mediumship is kind of random for me. So sometimes they'll show up like behind you, and I could see what outfit they're wearing. That's like how they show up for me. And then I'll be able to describe exactly like how they look, what they're wearing. And usually the outfits that they show me that they're wearing are either something that they like wore all the time. You have a picture of them in that outfit in your house, or they were buried in it. What's that?
I figured it'd be like their most popular outfit.
Yeah, like a grandma will show me, like one time I was looking at a picture because this usually shows up for me in pictures. And I was like, ooh, there's a lady in a pink robe sitting on that couch right there. Or pets show up a lot for me too. I'd be like, there's a cat sitting over there. And they'll be like, oh my God, my cat always sat there. So that kind of stuff happens. I think for me, I like to do it with a picture of the person, and then they can come through. So my daughter had sent me, my daughter loves to send me people. Oh, she sent me a picture of one of her like old co-workers that died suddenly. And so, his girlfriend did not believe in mediumship whatsoever, but was willing to read if I had written something down. And so I sent voice clips to my daughter, and then she sent them to the lady. And I ended up doing the reading in a car in a parking lot in Michigan. And so I was just sitting there, and I was like, okay. So I invited him. I'm like, okay, come on and come talk to me. it was like he's got in the car with me, and he was wearing red freaking pants, red leather pants, and a white shirt, and he was holding his hand like this. And then he started talking to me, the way we do, but not with his mouth, right? So I delivered this message, pretty profound. He wanted to talk so much about his girlfriend's butt implants that she just got. They are funny as hell. And so I'm like, I'm not telling her about her butt. I'm not telling her about her butt. He just kept talking about her butt. And I didn't know she got implants, but he wanted me to say something about her butt. So I did. And then she ended up sending my daughter another picture after she listened to my voice of him. And he was in a car, in a passenger seat, wearing red leather pants and a white shirt. And he was holding his hand like this. So I read all that without seeing that picture. I was like, holy shit, you cannot make this stuff up. Like legit. Exactly in the picture.
So he was picking that scenario because it was a familiar one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he probably knew that she was going to end up sending me that picture.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like,
and then I would just be like blown away. But what I love to do is I love to teach it. I love to teach it more than anything. I'm a time freedom, or I guess you could say I'm a time freedom lady. So I prefer really much to teach people this skill and then watch them spread this beautiful ripple effect.
Teach them how to be a medium?
Oh yeah. That's my jam. That is my 100% jam. I have an awaken program, and it's like a 15 module course, and it will teach, I don't care who, as long as they actually want to, right? I can teach anybody off the street from absolute zero all the way to medium. You're seeing, hearing, feeling, knowing, mediumship, animal communication, speaking to angels. It's my freaking jam.
Mm-hmm. I'd be scared to do it because I'm scared to do it right. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing dead people everywhere. A
Well, lot of people are scared. They're scared of what they're going to discover. But the very beginning part of the courses, I talk all about that, and you get to navigate it the way you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You get to, and usually spirit will want to work with you in a way that you are already passionate about. Like I love to help people find their purpose. I was very well known for finding people's lovers. Yeah.
What was that show Ghost Whisperer where they just popped up behind you, scared her? Yeah. So I wouldn't want that to happen. Jennifer,
and so you get to tell spirit, because you're the boss. You are the boss. You get to tell spirit, I don't want that. I don't want anybody manipulating my body or getting inside of my body. I don't want people waking me up, like dead people waking me up in the night. I don't want no spirits are allowed in my bedroom whatsoever unless I invite them. Right? So if I invite my spirit guides to do a meditation, then they could come on in. But then no dead people are allowed.
We were at the second floor nurses station of a haunted hospital at like 1 a.m. I pulled my North Face jacket up and zipped it up around my face. I said, "Don't touch me." and my friend that was with me said, "I'm not going to touch you." I'm like, "I'm not talking to you, man." I don't care if you touch me. Just nothing else touch me. Because I was in my head. That's what worries me, because I can deal with the concept of it and kind of just work through it in the interest. But then I'll get in my head after a couple of hours and I'll start freaking out a little bit. Even though I know technically nothing's going to happen, but right. I haven't had a 100% paradigm shift yet, and so I'm not ready for it.
Okay.
One day it will.
One day you'll look me back up. Yeah. It was the most profound experience that I had, because I wasn't always a psychic medium. I was into spiritual stuff, but when I moved to Michigan in 2010 and I went into the woods and I had this most profound experience that I didn't understand. And so I went on a quest to figure out what that was, and ended up mentoring with another medium. And I couldn't believe the information that I could receive. Seeing through time and space, seeing through closed doors, seeing inside people's bodies for like the health scan, speaking to dead. Like I never wanted to talk to dead people. And I called myself the scared medium at first, because I was like, how did that just happen? Hell no, we're not doing that again. But then I was like, it was so profound for me that I was like, oh my gosh, I am not here to follow societal norms. I'm not here to pay bills until I die, because that's what I thought I was That's the motions that I was doing before. It's like, okay, and saving my joy for some later date that might never come. So that's when I was like, no, everybody needs to learn how to do this.
That does sound intriguing. Like the the flip over, how you know it's like there's more to life than that kind of this crap.
Yeah.
Like chasing money is kind of stupid. Like everybody's in their own video game. Like why are we all trying to be the same little cog? I think the life's purpose is going towards your gift or
It
what you're here to
absolutely
do.
is. And through taking my program, that's where you discover it, because you're like, now you could talk to the invisible people, whether it be angels, guides, you know, some people speak to aliens and stuff, you know, and light beings and all of that. And then a lot of them become healers. So
I'm always worried about, I've had a medium or two on here who I was worried it was cold reading me. And so now I'm all like trepidatious. I'm like, don't cold read me. Someone's in a room right now. It starts with the G. Is it, you know, remember back in the early 2000s, they were doing that. It's like really popular on TV.
Oh yeah. I don't do names.
Yeah.
I know. We get a lot of slack for that. Like I posted in a local group because I wanted to start teaching at some local classes, you know, some spiritual shops and stuff. So I posted in this one group that's got 40,000 people. Oh my gosh, the haters were unbelievable in posting. I know you're looking at people's death certificates and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't respond to any of that. I don't waste my energy on any of that. I don't have to prove myself to anybody. And I think it's sad if there are people out there doing that, because to me,
it'd be a long way to go.
It's really to help people heal and really to help people understand themselves better.
It's like a whole subscription service to look up stuff like that.
What's that?
Like to look up death certificates would be expensive.
Oh, I know. How much time would I be wasting on that? That's just terrible.
What are you, a records clerk? You looking up microfiche and hold up to the light? That's what it sounds like. But yeah, I mean, I agree that the power exists, but yeah, that early 2000s thing, a lot of people got kind of shook on that from the South Park trope and everything.
Oh, somebody did comment on one of my YouTube videos and said, haven't you watched the South Park episode? And I didn't know what they were talking about. And I was like, I haven't watched South Park in forever, but I used to love that show.
It's so funny. What's his name? The guy that does that, Jon Stewart. You remember? It was the
John Edwards.
Yeah, John Edwards, because it was after he would sound like a vice president. Because the guy that ran with John Kerry's name was John Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it was the same one. And he would just do the whole like in the room right now. I'm hearing a gay. Like we do that kind of thing, but then they started making fun of it on South Park. It was like a whole episode. It was a good one. What is it your course teaches, like from start to finish?
It teaches like this, you know, the foundation of intuition or psychic and mediumship development. So you'll learn, you know, all the protection, and then you learn how to communicate with your spirit guides, how to strengthen that communication. And then we go into the clairs. So then we go into psychic seeing right away. And so you'll blow your mind in the first week. You'll be able to see behind closed doors. And then we go into clairsentience, which is psychic feeling. I love clairsentience, one of my favorite ones, because I could tell when somebody lives far away by the feeling I get in my stomach, or I could tell, I could feel like the country turkey in my stomach. I've never been there. So we do that. And then hearing clairaudience.
I thought you're talking about food, country turkey. Is that like chicken fried steak, country turkey?
So it basically takes them through each one of the clairs: seeing, hearing, feeling. So hearing, psychic hearing exercises. And then you literally will be doing quote unquote readings on volunteers that are in there. And then you'll get specific validation on each one. The thing is like everybody can do it. They just don't know how to do it. And I make you, so I don't just teach you how, I make you do it. That's the difference between my program and a lot of other ones. Is they'll have you watch the videos and okay, go away. No, I'm like, nope, do your assignment. And then I personally get them feedback to make sure that they get these details, and they blow their damn minds. And like you were saying a minute ago, how different mediums were picking up on different aspects of that haunted house or whatever. The
Yeah.
same it goes through for the people. So say I have a volunteer picture, and one person will tell me, they'll tell me that they see her grow in a garden, and they see multiple children around her, right? Another person will tell me that she has like celiac disease and that there's lots and lots of dead people around her. And so I always tell my students, don't read what anybody else wrote down until after you submit your assignment, because in the end, both people are absolutely spot on. They're just picking up different things because we all receive differently. And like I said, Spirit's going to work with you the way you want to help people. So like the death doula people, they will more than likely be mediums coming through this. Well, if there's other people that, there's a girl that came through the program that really wanted to help people with fertility. And so she developed into that. So she just, like, Spirit will tell her what supplements and stuff, it's crazy. It's wild. I love it.
Do you ever have people, the things you teach people how to do, the exercises, do you ever have people that talk about doing it by accident? Like a day-to-day life, all of a sudden,
yes,
like they awaken, like something flashes.
Yes. So that's a big part of how people find me, is they look up like, why am I seeing dead people when I close my eyes? And that's a video that will come up on my YouTube. So I call this that your gifts are firing and misfiring. It's just happening randomly. So you get to be okay with these random experiences and go on with your life, or you get to realize that you're having these experiences because Spirit's trying to get your attention to let you know you have some sort of ability, and they want to work with you in that capacity. So I always tell people, that's just the tip of the iceberg, that you think, oh, this is this cool thing that's happening to me. It's actually a sign that they want to work with you in that capacity.
It's minus the dead people. It's similar to how I feel. Like I got some kind of special ability that's not like special, but like beyond the average human, about noticing these signs that I see. I'm like, what is with this? And am I the only one that feels like they're getting talked to in some kind of weird language?
No, you're not. That's how people find me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool that you have embraced it and have paid attention and been aware. It's really about your awareness. I've been aware enough to follow the next sign and the next sign.
Since 2014 to now, I've only had one number basically, but within the last since right before Christmas, I've started getting different ones. Like they're throwing them at me situationally, since they know I'm paying attention to that. That's what's crazy, because sometimes I don't even see my main one. I'll see one of the ones, my new ones for the month or whatever in the week, like all the time. And that's just like, I guess it's kind of to do with what I'm trying to manifest right now and the progress I'm making. It always has to do with that. Like one of them is 37, which means congratulations.
Okay.
But I'm like, for what? It's been a month now. Stop showing me congratulations and tell me something for what? But I guess I'll find out. In their time, it's not a long time. For me, it's just, strudgingly. And if something goes wrong at work, you're like, just come on, do something. And but that's the thing of dealing with people who transcend time, and you are in time like a prison.
Yeah, right.
They probably enjoy it.
I'm sure they do.
I get messed with a lot. I'll tell you one final story before I let you go. I think is cool. Like if I don't pray about it in traditional sense, I'll do this. My intent and desire is for this, and it's my official intent and desire. And I'll do like a thing where I let it go. And one day I said, if my success is going to be an orchard, a giant orchard, I want an apple slice of that success within the next few days. And I said today, I want it today. And I was sitting there, I said it like 4 or 5 times, declared exactly, I want an apple slice of success if my main success is an orchard. And I want it today before the day goes. And nothing happened that day. The very next day, I'm on a live podcast. And this thing goes from 10 views to 300, I think. Out of nowhere. 10 viewers. I was like trending for like an hour. And it went away like nothing right before it stopped. I'm like, well, that was it. It's crazy how that worked out. Like, and it never happened again. Nothing even close. It's never gotten above like 20 since then. Concurrent with this one, it just went like I was maxing out. I got like 30 subscribers in 20 minutes.
Wow. Well, see, there was your apple slice. I love it.
Yeah, that was one. Yeah, that was one of them.
I feel like I'm having an apple slice today because one of my reels that I made on Instagram is like got tons of likes in just a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like that. Like I looked up, it was like several hundred viewers at once. I'm like, I've never had that many ever. No reason.
Wow.
And it just hung there, and my comment section was filled with different people, and it was like looking. I guess I was like looking into the future a little bit about what was going to come.
I love it.
So like, that's cool. That's how that worked. And of course it was the next freaking day instead of, I want it by the day's end because I'm immortal and I have to know when things are going to happen. And that was like one of my main things. Like one of my main lessons I have to learn is it's their time, not mine.
Yeah, no doubt. No freaking doubt.
Yeah. It's all right. You have been a great sport and humoring me here on a Monday when I'm really, really sleepy for no reason, but I'm overly caffeinated, such as the sign behind me says.
Okay, I love it.
And we didn't talk about Bigfoot once, so I got to throw the B word in there, just so the algorithm will pick it up. Bigfoot, and visit Miss Johnson at Brandaleen.com /awaken. It's going to be in the description, so not a big deal. And lots of cool stuff on her channels. I'd recommend following it. Lots of funny reels, if nothing else.
There you go. Thank you.
It'll get you through a bathroom break at the least. And the least she can do is get you through a boring 5 minutes. But do you have anything else coming up you want to announce to the peeps?
No, just that my Awaken program is like the bee's knees, and I love it. And that's about it. I got a couple books. Your Freaking Amazing Gifts is I wrote after I created the Awaken program, and then Your Freaking Amazing Life.
Is the manifestation babe? She's the one that does she always says living your fuck yes lifestyle. That's her.
Maybe.
Is it her? When you said you're freaking awesome, it kind of come to my head. Who says that?
Okay.
It's one of them. That's one of the things everybody says. Like, yes, queen.
Yes.
I just know that whenever I put a manifestation law of attraction on the thing, I'm going to get a bunch of different style of viewers than I'm used to. So I want to make sure they're prepped and ready.
Okay, sweet.
All right. But thanks for coming on. I'll hit the outro now, and need anything, just let me know.
Thank you so much for having me on.
As I go, I may want to have you back as like a advisor on some stuff, because this is not the last one to hear this. I had to like dip my toe in the water to find out. And you came, you popped up on there. So I'm like, yeah, I need to have this discussion to see where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to come back and talk about other stuff too.
All right. Well, until next time, thanks for coming on, and peace out.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
I never didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never believed in it. I didn't believe in it. I never gave it any thought.
They kept wood knocking back and forth to each other, and it was in a pattern.
Barn owls don't typically throw rocks.
I come across these tracks.
Sasquatch is still not on my mind.